communicate the value of what it is that you are doing or selling, people are just going to scroll past to the next interesting thing, and you will not get whatever conversion it is that you hope to achieve. So yeah, before we jump into like the marketing process, we have this other challenge.
So before the challenge, I just wanted to add to what Olako said, just like a little context. I mean, we all know these things. We know that like everybody's on the internet. We know everybody has a phone now. Like even our moms are on Facebook. Facebook is literally their space now and things like that. So I mean, essentially, what we're just trying to give more insight to is just like how, as we are now on the internet, we're all spoiled for choice. When it comes to music, there's so much music to listen to. So it's like whatever like the artist is pushing, you have to get listeners' attention in 8 seconds or less. Which is why even like recently, I mean, Wizkid's album is still like people were even less accepting of it. So things like that. So when it's creative, it's like when you're in a store and you don't know what to eat because there's so much stuff, you sort of tend to look for like what's the more colorful one, which one gets my attention the most. So that is why I mean creatively selling your products in whatever way, like in the creative industry is the only way that can work in today's world. So yeah, right now, to launch into like the meat of things, we have another challenge. And this time around, we just want you to, think like, I mean, we're all creatives and we're all in this space together. So what campaign would you say in recent times, in whatever space in the creative industry, would you say has been like your favorite creative campaign? And what were the things that made it so? So we'll just give you like 3 minutes to think of that, and then we'll just have some answers because we actually want to hear what you guys think. If you want me to repeat it, I'll take it again. So like, what creative campaign in recent times has been your favorite?
And it could be a music campaign, it could be a tech startup, it could be any brand, it could be a food brand.
It could be fashion.
As soon as anyone wants to share, like you can just.
Let's have it.
Sitting on my chair.
Who wants to go first? Yeah, sure.
Let's have it.
So it's a cement brand in India. I went there about in like
20 minutes.
So it started with a ghost who was crying in a graveyard. So an elderly ghost came. I was like, why you crying? And like, you can't see it, don't run again, blah blah blah. I can't remember the exact words. The guys started running at some point. They had to start running, and ghosts can like float and go through walls and everything. And it was running, and we were just catching one in the graveyard, running through walls, running through tombstones and everything. And we got to a point where the elderly ghost just told us, stop, don't go there. Because that one was made by the cement brand. So it was like, he died the second time after eating that one. So that stuck with me. So I tend to love adverts or content with a bit of satire, a bit of joke, and funny stuff. It has stuck with me ever since then. Something I remember from time to time, I just laugh and joke on my.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Anybody else
Look
want to
behind
share?
you.
Okay, my favorite campaign right now is not exactly a Nigerian brand. There was this campaign that Bonvita did in India where they were trying to talk to parents about how they make their children become what exactly they are not, trying to make them fit into what they are not. Maybe like me now, I want to be a writer, my parents say you must be a lawyer, that kind of thing. So what they did was they put Bonvita in the weirdest containers where they don't fit, like your toilet wash, your body wash, and you're seeing Bonvita inside. So when you see that kind of thing, you first look at it again like, is this Bonvita or toilet wash or something? Now, every time you pick that, and they were like, encouragement, words of encouragement on it. So that kind of thing where this is definitely not fitting into this container. So why are you trying to force your child? to be what they are not. And it was something that was really effective around the period where it came out in India, to help parents to stop forcing their children to go to departments or courses they don't want to study. And then there was another one that Cadbury did last December where they said they didn't have a budget for Christmas campaigns. Every brand is working on a campaign doing this, but their own campaign is no campaign. And what they did was that their logo was a star symbol, and so they put it on every product you can see. You can see a 5-star. So when you see any product with 5-star, you remember. So it was really very interesting to me.
Thank you very much for sharing. Can we have one more? Okay, 2 more, I guess.
So, sorry, let's together. So there was an MTN advert a long time ago featuring fouls, and the reason why it stuck with me was because whoever watched the first video noticed that it was an MTN advert. So they had other confused people standing around wearing different colors of ties. Airtel's red, Glow's green, 9 dark green. So they had issues with it. So before really 2 weeks later, they did another one and changed the ties to black. That's what it is. If you remember it.
Thank you. Okay. Mine is a very simple one. I think a lot of us here would know it. And it's by Rain Money. I'm sure a lot of us remember the Need Money, Rain Money. The banners that were everywhere. Right? Just billboards, but Need Money, Rain Money. That was all on it, but it was very effective. Yeah.
I think he wanted to share as well.
Yeah, sure.
Hi. This one was on an Indian campaign. I think it was a phone brand, 5 or something like that. They were trying to explain the fact that tech should bring us closer, not take us further apart. So there was husband and wife, same bed, woke up in the morning, and the wife woke up and turned to just, help the husband. The husband was waking up at the same time and turned for his phone. Right? So she turned and hugged the air. He turned and picked his phone. So she was trying to tell him something really, but because he went for his phone and he didn't even look at her, he was just talking and talking, he didn't look at her at all. So since she couldn't communicate that, he sent him an email. Okay, since you are looking at your phone, you definitely see the email. So he woke up that morning and said, oh, I have several emails, let me just... And he got another one and said, another one just came in. And it was from the wife. And she said, please, when you go about whatever you're going about, remember to get me painkillers. And he was like, so you are ill and you didn't tell me. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So what she was trying to say was, you don't have my time, you are going after your phone, and so I had to send that message so that you see. Because even if I tried to tell you, you wouldn't have noticed because you went for your phone. So at the end, when she said that, he switched off the phone, and that was it. So the whole story was, tech should bring us closer, not take us further. Yeah.
Very interesting. You want to share? Okay, final one. Everybody wants to share. We'll have to jump into
I
that.
think the most effective campaign I've seen is Coke. Share a Coke with. That's one of the best Coke platforms ever. I spent like 2 weeks going to the price because I definitely love it.
Share with a friend. That was very good.
Yeah, I think let's just take her. After that, we jump in.
Okay, so my favorite campaign right now was a music artist, his kind of album push out campaign. I saw it in Unilag. It was just at one of the bus stops, and on it there was this QR code with scan to see nudes or something, scan for nudes,
Like if you scan it, you'll see someone's news. And I was like, that's crazy. Who put their news out there? And I scanned it, and it just led me to the person's album link, like Spotify and everything. And the songs were good. So that was very interesting. I like things that are very, what's the word, controversial.
Right. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing. That was really interesting. Okay, so that basically means that we obviously all pay attention to these things, these messages that these brands try to send to us, and we notice and we hold on to the ones that leave a lasting impression, and that's sort of what we're talking about. So this is basically just a standard process that you can go through to design a marketing campaign. Pretty simple, straightforward. It's also replicable across different industries or fields. So no matter the field you're in, you can sort of apply this framework to your marketing campaign. So first thing typically is to understand the brand thoroughly, or the products, whatever, or the projects, whatever it is you're trying to push. So we're going to go into each of them. So I'm not going to explain now, I'll just scan through now, then we'll go into each of them one by one. So once you understand what you're trying to push, the next thing would be to define the goal of the campaign, like what are you really trying to achieve. Then define the target audience, who are you trying to reach. When you know who you're trying to reach, then you can define the channels through which you reach them, because when you know who you're trying to reach, then you can know where they usually are and where you will find them. And then you typically look at the budgets that you have and then decide how to allocate the marketing budget across the different channels that you've identified that you can reach your target audience through. And then you basically start to do your different marketing activities. But as you are doing the marketing activities, you're iterating, meaning that you're learning and then re-evaluating what you're doing and making changes when necessary. And then at the end of the campaign, you basically look at the data, the analytics, and you learn, and you pick the important things and take them on into your next campaign. So these three artists are like people that we've worked with and done sort of different things for. So we try to use them, or like some of the things that we did for them as, I guess, examples or illustrations of some of the things that we'll be saying. So first is like understanding the product or the project, right? Like when we think about any of these three artists, like what comes to mind? Like does anybody want to share like any of these three artists? Like what are the things that jump at you when you see them or hear about them? The first person is
That's
Reminisce.
Reminisce.
Second person is Joe Boy. Third person is Teddy.
Destin.
So who wants to share anything about either of them?
Reminisce street. Gangsta. Street.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, those are the things that immediately jump to mind about these guys. What was the next slide? So, but the work that we've done, the campaigns that we've done for them were actually pretty different, because they were trying to achieve three different things, and they were in different, I guess, stages of their career. So for Reminisce, like you guys have said, he's known as like a street guy, street rapper, local rapper that raps in Yoruba, like hardcore lyrics, maybe not very appealing to everybody, but has like a core fan base. But during the pandemic, he reached out to us, his team reached out to us, and basically he had recorded a music project that he titled Vibes and Inshallah. I don't know if anybody here heard it. So basically he was in a space where the streaming, around the pandemic, music streaming really took off because everybody was at home and people started to actually like use Apple Music, Spotify, whatnot. Before then, most artists didn't invest a lot into digital aspect of things. It was still very traditional, like radio, TV, maybe a little social media here and there, but it was largely traditional. But I think 2019, 2020 was like the tipping point where things became very digital, especially in the music industry, and with content in general. So his goal was, okay, now I've heard that it's these Gen Z kids that run things, and the audience is made up of these, Rems is over 40, he obviously can't relate with many of the things that we now are hip to. And he realized that, and his goal was, how can you guys make me appeal to these younger guys who ordinarily would not listen to Reminisce song or project because of the perception that he had. And that was what the goal for that campaign was. For Joe Boy, that's actually ongoing, so I can't say too much about it. But he didn't have a great year last year. And basically, he's sort of trying to get back into the conversation and because when he came out with Fireboy, Rema, Oxlade, and it almost feels like they have, in last year in particular, they sort of left him behind. So now it's trying to get his name back into the conversation. And if you look at him from a personality point of view, he's very laid back. He's not controversial. He hardly says anything. And in today's world, we live in a world of hyper visibility where you need to constantly be in the news. So, and with Tenny, I think hers was pretty different. It was what we did for her was around 2020, when she released her Billionaire EP, just the EP that had the Billionaire song. So she wanted to do a concert, and basically she shot a video. The video for the song actually mirrors Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I don't know if anybody knows that video, but it had Frank Edoho in it. So basically what we did for her was we built a game that mirrored Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and then had her fans play the game, and there was a ranking, a public ranking, and then top 10 fans got to get special invites to her concerts, and one person got to win a millionaire. So for her, what she was trying to achieve was, how do I engage my fans, and how do I tap into this Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Billionaire concept that I've created. So the goals were quite different, but you have to understand the goal for each campaign or whatever project, whether it's a movie you're trying to promote, whether it's a brand, whether it's a fashion line. Understanding the goal is what will help you better realize what exactly you need to do to achieve it. And then target audience, I think I sort of have touched on that. These people have different, even though they're all artists that make pop Nigerian music, they have different people that they want to look at. So when you can still go back. So when you want to evaluate target audience, I think you look across different variables. So demographic variables, things like age, range, things like location, things like gender, things even social class sometimes. All these things play in. For Reminisce, for the projects we did for him, his goal was really to reach the younger audience, younger people that are much younger than him. And he knew he had to tap into a brand or work with platforms and agencies that know how to reach these sorts of people. For Joe Boy, we all know his fan base is mostly young people that like love songs and like sweet stuff. And he's also very big in East Africa, so if you're doing something for someone like that, you have to focus a lot on East Africa because they really like it there. And Tenny is sort of liked by everybody, whether a young person or our parents, they all like Tenny songs because her song is sort of cut across. So yeah,
So after all these steps, right? Because first you need to define, find key elements that speak to the project. Get your target audience and all of this. Then you need to and you have the target audience now. So how do you get across to the target audience? Because you're not going to magically appear in their house or what have you. So thankfully, there's social media. So before social media, there's also traditional media. So there's the digital channels, and under the digital channels, the world's literally your oyster. There
Can you move
is
to the next
no-
one? Like next level.
Yes. So under that, there's literally like, you know, social media, because I mean we use social media, but it's also like a great place to interface with content that we love. So on social media, your TikTok, there's TikTok campaigns all the time. Twitter, there's Twitter influencers, Instagram influencers. Under owned media as well, it's like, we read things. I mean, we don't read as much as we used to do back in the day, but there's still like blog posts, which is like owned media, where you know you can reach out to someone like, okay, can I get a slot on your blog? Can I get an article? So there's Substack, there's Medium, and all these other channels. Then there's also influencer campaigns. There's different type of influencers, for instance, right? So I mean, which is also like why budgeting is important, but we'll get into that later, because there's different type of influencers. You know, what influencer works for this campaign, what influencer works for this demographic, what influencer works for this social media platform. Because I mean, at times an influencer might have like a different stronghold on a different platform. Then you also want to do like, you know, digital ads, sponsored ads, because that's a way of, you know, reaching your audience like in a more targeted manner. You use like data that you have to get across to them. And these are just, you know, just examples of digital channels that you can use. And now offline channels, even though now we're talking about, you know, mostly like the online world, the offline channels are also like a place to really explore. Say for instance now, while we were talking about like interesting campaigns that we've come across, someone shared how in Unilag there was the thing where she scanned that said, do you want nudes? So that is, for instance, that is an offline channel, because it's physical. It was like an experience, so like something that you come across. So say for instance, when you go for like a concert and they're playing the music, you're experiencing the music in real life, in real time. And that's like a way, like you don't get to decide what the DJ plays or what song comes next. The experience is just like you bought into the experience. Listening parties, what have you. So these are one of offline channels. As there's also like print media, and luckily print media these days is not just newspapers. There's magazines as well. There's magazines as well. I can say digital magazines, but no, sorry, that is offline. So there's magazines like that are paper and things like that. Then there's even billboards, and somebody said like the red money, need money, red money, and this is where, you know, copywriting comes to play, because that was very strong and simple copywriting, for instance. Then radios, podcasts, things like that. Say for instance now, you could just imagine if you think like say radio podcasts, like how we know so much about Portable now, and that's because if it's in like a radio station, it's going to say so much. I think so. These are part of like, you know, offline channels that you can use to your to get your campaign out there, and just, you know, market yourself in like a really creative way, market your products, your brand in a really creative way. So before that I already breezed into allocating budgets, but once again, all of this is very tiered. So to not put the cart before the horse, you know your target audience already, you know the channels that are available to you and what works best. And it's also very important to make sure that, like, you know, when you're looking at channels, you're thinking what type of campaign, and you make sure that like your target audience are on the channels that you'll be using. Because say for instance, if you're trying to target moms and you're marketing it on TikTok, you're only going to get gens. It's going to fall flat. It's going to fall flat on that end. So when you have all of this in place, then you now look at the budget. How much do you have? How much are you willing? How much is available to spend on this campaign? What is the spend available? And when you look at that, then you now decide how you want to allocate things. Say for instance, because the money will never be enough, so it's important that, you know, priority comes into play. And if you decide that like you're just going to do 3 things, maybe you're just going to do press, you're going to do radio, then after that you're going to do some billboards, you have to make sure that like at the same time it's still targeted at the places where your target audience will be, and which is why, and when you're doing it, you have to do it the right way that shows off the strong arm of what you're marketing. Because say for instance now, if Reminisce was okay, no, we can't do this, we can't do that, let's just do it this way, and then he now decides that, okay, he's trying to reach Gen Zs and he just does billboards. What if it was pandemic, nobody's outside, time like that, like, oh, there's only money for billboards, I do only billboards. It will fall flat that way, you're not doing it the right way. So you have to make sure that everything comes hand in hand, like a handshake, right? And it falls in line with what you have in mind. So
yeah, one thing I would want to add is, can you go back? Is how one thing that, I mean, with budgeting, it's largely like driven by experience, because you can never just know like what the right way, like the right amount to allocate is. Like, it's sort of iterative, and like it's something that it's like a muscle that develops as you use it more. But one tip that has worked for us is like approaching budgeting from like in tranches, basically. So you don't completely allocate your entire budget in the at the beginning of a campaign, because like anything can happen in the middle. I personally am of the opinion that when you're doing a marketing campaign, it's actually when you start the campaign that you begin to learn, and then you begin to figure out what's really working. So if you have already paid like, oh, you have like a 20 million naira budget and you paid these influencers, you paid someone to run ads, you've done everything, and then in the middle you realize that, oh, actually this thing does not work, but you spent the whole money, then that's the end. Like Oxlade's Kulosa challenge, I don't know if anybody knows, if anybody saw, yeah, if you were online, you'd have seen it. Like, they had a completely different, when they were actually marketing the song, they had a completely different challenge that they designed for the campaign. And someone, like a fan, just did that one, like this one that became the popular one, and then people started doing it, and they then went to reinvest in pushing, like activating influencers for and working with TikTok to design the filter thing for the new one. But imagine they had like a $50,000 budget and they had blown everything on the initial idea, and the label was like, there's no more budget, like that's the end, we can't release any more money. That's why it's always good to sort of hold off on some of your spending power, so that in case anything happens in the middle of the campaign, you can always like backtrack and reinvest the extra money in something else that you've seen that now works. Yeah.
right. So so after that, you clearly have to start the campaign. You have to start. So at launch points, like how Dolako said, things happen in tranches, and there's different steps to it. So for launch, you're literally putting everything in place. Are you getting influencers? What social media are you using? Are you using offline channels as well, or are you making it purely online? And then you also want to make sure that every step of the way you're analyzing how things go, because you want to see if you want to continue in this, if you want to continue in this format, or you want to change things. So that's why we said launch and iterate, because you want to launch, analyze, look at things, take a step back, and then put in everything you've learned to make sure that like halfway through it, you're not, if you made a misstep, if you've seen that, okay, this could be done this way, you take a step back, you do it this way, because nothing is ever like clear cut, and especially because it's in the creative scene. So you have to make sure that like you're one step ahead, and you're using like the data that you have to make sure that like things are going the right way. And if it's not going the right way, how can you do this better? Say for instance now, an easy way is as content leads. There's a thing we do news roundup every other week. So there used to be a cover for it before, and it's like, oh yeah, here's what happened in Afrobeats for the week. And then we noticed that after the first week, it was getting bare likes, and like, no, this can happen. So what we decided to take off the cover and just start with like the most interesting news of the week, and that started to work better. So that's another way you can launch, analyze, and then improve on what you have.
Yeah, so when you're done with the campaign, it's really important to have these days of recapping the campaign with your team or your agency or whoever you worked with, and just asking key questions around, if you remember, you set your goals earlier into the campaign, so how much of your goals did you achieve? What worked, what didn't, what channels worked and gave you the best results? What influencers delivered? So let's say you went to pay Mr. Macaroni, pay Kiki, pay whoever, and then you look back and you're like, actually, this person's numbers are plenty, but for our kind of product or our kind of service or maybe the person's followers just don't like what we're selling. Let's not use this person again. So you have to go back and then look through the entire campaign and then decide like what works, what didn't, and then learn from that and take that into your next campaign. And yeah, what strategies can you repeat in the future? Because once you find something that works, it's best to milk it until it doesn't work anymore. So yes, so I think we're close to the end. Just a final activity and then questions. We just want a few people, like based on the process that we've shared, some of the ideas that we've shared, to basically your partner, your initial partner that you spoke with, someone that works in the creative industry, whether it's like film, whatever industry they work in, like share some ideas with us on how you would market something that what they do essentially, like what comes to mind. Do you want to clarify?
I guess, so yeah, we had a little game in the beginning, just to get, to strap into the session. And now, to wrap things up and just make sure that like we're all on the same page. If, not necessarily, even if you did not get the, what the industry your partner works in correctly, just have like a little review first. And then once you just design like a little rollout campaign that involves like a project in your partner's industry. Say for instance now, if your partner works in fashion, so let's imagine that they're going to have like a fashion collection out. So how would you market that? What would you do? It's just like a little idea, nothing too deep. If your partner works in music, if they're a producer and they have like an EP, how would you market that? If your partner works in tech and they have this app that they want people to get on the wave of, how would you market that? So, we can just like, we have 5 minutes for that.
And then the rest of the time we take a few questions. That's it. If you already want to say something, we don't have to wait for the whole time. Or if you don't have a partner, maybe you just came in, you can tell us how you would market, something you learned today that I guess would influence the way you do marketing going forward, or an idea that's popped up into your head. Could you please get rest of mic? You will go first. Okay. Yeah.
So, for me, it's not, I think for me, one of the things that really stuck with me, because one point giving the examples, I found it kind of interesting, just looking at the campaigns people were mentioning that stuck with them. And so I was trying to understand for each of those examples, why that campaign stuck with them. So like the need money, rain money one, for me, what stuck out there was, okay, message clarity. Like they had to hit that message that they needed to get out there, and that was just it. So that was like one point for me on that example particularly. Then, you know, the cement guy, some guy mentioned something about the cement guy who, you know, so for that I picked up like trying to be like hilarious, you know, just using humor as a tool. And I think the Sherry Cook was also like pointing out the identity, like trying to let your final audience see themselves in your ad or in your campaign. And what else? The Scan Notes one, for me, what I picked there was basically being able to make it a bit catchy, or using Scandal basically to get people's ideas. So really was the examples that for me I was like trying to understand why have you thought like that, and what does it say about what people are paying attention to? Yeah.
Right, brilliant.
So they're supposed to like market.
Yeah.
Precisely. But I want to market the guy with the fish.
The guy with the fish. Okay, sure.
So basically, I was thinking about it and I realized that I want to play on the. Sorry, I play for the very. I'm not a very religious person. I play for the people who are very just. I like to play on the Bible.
We can't really hear you.
I like to like play on the Bible story of where Jesus sends people to fish and they got a coin out of the fish. Now that's exactly what I would do. Now depending on the market, because you have kind of where you're working for, where you're working with. It was a more educated background where people were more willing to try out activities and stuff. I'd say a campaign that brings people to actually experience the fishing experience. Then at the end of the day, whether it's mock coins or it's some form of reward, maybe you can. They would get it for every fish they catch, and that would be some sort of reminder to us why they need to buy this brand of fish or why they need to.
Interesting. So like a physical activation where people actually come out to fish in real life. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, have to make a lot of sense.
He was
Okay, so she's a teacher, and part of what you spoke about is the attention grabber, kind of just breaking out of the mold and doing something weird. So I was just forcing myself to think of a weird way for a teacher to promote teach or what they teach. Carousels became way more popular during the pandemic. We had almost too much of it and everybody got tired. The really good ones are back up by now. But I just thought, I'm assuming that she already does carousels already. So I'm going to have her print placards. You know these cards that you hold at events? Props. The props you take pictures with. We're going to have her print carousels in actual physical big squares. It would have the Instagram name of our handle right on there, and then take it into traffic, right? And then there'll be two of them. The most serious gridlock, the one that you know the cars are not moving, they're not going to move anytime soon. Then two, herself and her friend will just go to the glass or the mirror, downforce specifically or BRTs or buses that have plenty people, and the first frame will just say, they're stuck in traffic, and then, so they're like two, they will act like a carousel, they're just moving into from each other. So stuck in traffic, okay, time to learn. And then, you know, carousels, you're supposed to scroll on your phone, basically acting a physical scroll of the carousels. And of course, the first people who do it the bus is pick up their phone and say, what's this? You know, we already know people sell mattress in traffic, but we've not seen carousels brought to us live in traffic. That will be an attention grabber.
Very interesting. And then people will record it and
they'll record it and post it. And the undo, you know, the undo was left in the prop. So, that's that.
Chidera, I think you might need to pay Peter for that idea.
His name is Victor.
Oh my God. Okay, Peter.
Oh no, Victor. Victor Fato.
Can I go ahead? Thank you so very much for this session. It was an eye-opener. Well, I'm not a digital marketer, but I have this thing that's been disturbing me for a while now, which I'd like to ask you guys.
Okay.
Marketing campaign actually is supposed to appeal to our emotion, right? For example, the recent Intel Data for Life advert about a child named Esther who is hearing impaired. You've seen the advert, and how the parents communicate through phone, through a WhatsApp, yeah. So she chooses the shoe. She takes pictures of two different colors of shoes and asks the mom what should she wear, you know, various things like that. And when she was leaving for school, the mom took the phone from her. It appealed to, you know, our emotion. I don't have any hearing impaired relatives or friends, but I just could, you know, relate with that. But you find out that most campaigns that make these musicians blow up are controversial. It's either, have you seen Tiwa's sex tape? Have you seen her sex video on this? Or it's either Davido's girlfriend is actually dating someone else, and then the next thing they are dropping, you know, a single, they're dropping an album. So why, I'm trying to understand what demographic does that controversial campaign appeal to, and why does it make so much sense? Because eventually it sells. Everybody gets to know about the fact that they release an album or release a single? That has been the question that has been bothering me.
Very interesting question, actually. The music industry is obviously and entertainment in general. That's where those sorts of strategies are mostly used. I've been a part of one or two things like that. But the thing is, people just Twitter, for instance, the platform like Twitter was designed for people to just talk. Meaning that when you wake up every day and you go on Twitter, there needs to be a topic. If there was nothing to talk about on Twitter, what's the point? So people have to manufacture things to talk about or latch onto whatever thing is floating around. And people know that controversy just sells. People want to give their opinion. Whether you agree or disagree, it's not about doing things that people agree with. It's about sometimes deliberately saying things that people disagree with. I've heard of artists that actually have 2 sets of influencers on lock. And yes, they actually pay influencers to oppose the influencers that are supporting them so that it seems like I've heard of artists that
some people fake their deaths.
Yeah.
Everybody.
So there are artists that 2 artists that they have rival fan bases, and 2 artists are cool, but they push their fan bases to continue to fight and kill each other on Twitter, online, because they know that it works for them. So it's just because people are drawn to they want to give their opinion about trendy conversations, and whether the opinion is positive or negative does not really matter, because at the end of the day, I would rather be in the news than not be in the news. It's like in entertainment, for instance, all publicity is sort of good publicity. There hasn't really been a time when, unless you did something completely heinous, completely bad, for the most part, so far as you're in the news, it benefits you. Even if you're not in the news for a good reason, unless it's something really bad and despicable. So people have seen that the pattern sort of works and they continue to do it. So yeah, that's it.
So our time is up, but just to quickly ask what Dolapo said, right? So generally, there's different emotions that you can hinge your campaign on: humor, nostalgia, controversy. Very strong statements like the Red Money one, for instance. But controversy also sells because while humor, you see it, you laugh, you move on, you forget. You retweet it and that's all. But one, controversy can be orchestrated more easily than the other things, right? You can put things in place to make it happen. And another thing is that it creates discourses. It fuels itself. Humor is just going to, you laugh, you move on. But for controversy, it fuels it. There's going to be, person A has a different take on it and they want to share it. Person B has an entirely different opinion on it and they want to share it. And that from there, it just keeps moving. Controversy spreads like wildfire because as humans, we think in different ways and we just keep adding to it. So this is how things build up. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. If there are more questions, I guess you could ask us in person, after the session.